Ladies and gents, Miss Leah Chase is in the house. I'm going to let everybody visit, the gals that want to visit for a minute. But before we move on, I'd like to thank women chefs and restaurateurs for their support in spreading the word about our event. And I'm excited to share that they asked to create a scholarship in my mom's name to New Orleans Culinary and Hospitality Institute, opening January 7th. Our 93,000 square foot Gnocchi, just blocks from here, has been a 5-year climb with my co-founders and cousins, Dickie Brennan and George Brower, and our amazing board. But this whole city has gotten behind this. Emerald and Donald and Bill and Republic and Tulane. Right over here is our amazing director, Carol Markowitz, and Aaron and Sean. This is the team that are gonna be running Gnocchi right over here. Go talk to the team. Here they are. We need your support. Culinary and pastry certificates, enthusiast courses. Send us some students and we will send them back to you. So the gang's right over here and y'all come talk to them. We have a really important panel up next, as I think we can all agree it's a pivotal time in our industry. We have an opportunity to make change, to ask the hard questions, and to champion hospitality for our staff as well as for our guests. The next panel is a fierce group of women. I was just in the back with them, y'all better get ready, who are and have always been pioneers, trailblazers, and change makers. It is my honor to also have Miss Kim Severson back on the stage to moderate this. Thank God it's not me. Anyway, and so we heard from Walter earlier. Kim is an award-winning journalist at the New York Times who covers our country's food culture. Before she joined the New York Times in 2004, Kim spent 6 years writing about cooking and the culture of food for the San Francisco Chronicle, and has won several regional and national awards for news and feature writing, including 4 James Beard Awards for food writing. Earlier this year, Kim was part of the team that won a Pulitzer Prize in 2018 for public service for reporting on workplace sexual harassment issues. We are thrilled to have her with us today, leading the discussion on women who have at times had to dance backwards in high heels. Good Lord, y'all buckle up. All right.
Oh my God, well, I should say thank you for putting this panel together. And I mean, all of the panels have had an incredible powerhouse lineup. I just wanted to say thanks for all of the people who've shown up here today. And then there's this panel, which we were gonna just call men, am I right? But she didn't go for that title. I thought it was great, but, so.
Oh yeah, give that a whirl.
So I'm just gonna hopefully this will be a discussion more than a kind of a presentation panel, and we have like this incredible murderer's row of women up here who are gonna tell you everything. So hopefully we'll have a discussion among us and ask some questions, and then leave a lot of time for some questions from the audience. So as we go through this discussion, be thinking about anything you may wanna ask the panel. We have an hour, and so hopefully we'll be able to get to your thoughts. But let me first introduce the panel. I'll just start. Barbara Lynch, who is a true American treasure, a proud daughter of South Boston.
Oh,
8 restaurants, is that right? Do I have 8 restaurants, or is that fake news?
8, yeah.
Yeah, 8. See, it's not fake news. And she's won all of the diamonds and the stars and the best ofs and the who's that you can win. Her last book, Out of Line, A Life Playing with Fire, was truly one of those holy shit kind of books. I mean, I'd encourage you to read it. So, Barbara, next to her we have Dominique Crin. She's French, which pretty much is all we have to say.
I mean, do you think?
A veteran of Stars in San Francisco, where she worked with Jeremiah, right?
Over there.
He's gonna, and you can tell us the truth about that later, Jeremiah. She is certainly one of the world's best chefs. Atelier Crin, Petit Crin, Bar Crin in San Francisco, the first woman to receive 2 Michelin stars in the United States,
really?
Right?
Even with that Sophie thing you made?
Hashtag badass, okay? And next, Camilla Marcus, who recently opened a very decidedly LA cafe called Westbourne in New York, and is among her many accomplishments. The former director of business development for the Danny Meyer Group, and was there when Shake Shack went public, and you can only imagine what a wild ride that was. I bet Mr. Meyer was not Mr. Hospitality then, right? Was he pulling his hair out? I think I talked to him on the phone once for an interview, and it was like the least polite I've ever heard him. He's like, hello, Kim. Yes, it was a great time, though. And look at what happened. So there you are. And also, I just want to mention that you work with the Robin Hood Foundation, and you're a waste-free restaurant. Is that correct? Zero waste restaurant. And is this true? You're also into extreme sports? Into extreme sports also has a law and a business degree. So,
And a culinary.
I'm sorry?
And a culinary degree.
Okay. We can't compete.
Does that include like?
But you know, the only
laser
person
tag?
who could beat her is sitting next to her. Not that this is a competition, because women, we're not competitive at all. Is Sheila Johnson of Salamander Resorts. And it's a great honor to have her here. She oversees a portfolio of luxury properties in Virginia, Florida, Louisiana, South Carolina, right? The only African-American woman to have ownership in 3 professional sports franchises, including, yeah, thank you. Including the WNBA's, I'm sorry?
Won the Stanley Cup this year.
And won the Stanley Cup. Thank you. And I was just going to give her a hard time for having lost, the Washington Mystics having lost to Seattle recently, but it was a great, I don't know if you all follow women's basketball at all, but it was a thrill for me. Is on the Forbes list of America's 50 richest self-made women, which is... What? And if you already don't think you're doing enough, she's an accomplished violinist, right?
A violinist.
And then we have next to her another woman who is someone that I turn to quite frequently as a source for my reporting. She also writes for us. No, really, it's Dr. Jessica Harris. A scholar, an author, historian, journalist, cook, and really one of the best people to set you straight on what's going on in the world, in my opinion. And her latest book is a terrific memoir, too, called My Soul Looks Back, which has the best cover photo ever. So I would recommend that. And there's someone else on the stage here who you all, we're getting to you now. Is that okay? You're like, all right, hurry up. Leah Chase, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you. I might be the oldest thing here. Sit down. Sit down.
For the 2 young people in the back who have no idea why everybody just stood up, they're like looking, they're Googling Leah Chase. Okay. She cooks at a restaurant called Zuki Chase, which you may have heard of, which has been in business 77 years?
77 years.
77 years. She's the nation's preeminent Creole cook, a friend to several presidents, a mentor, a mother. She has a keen eye for art and an innate sense of politics, which makes her particularly a great source for us with the topic at hand. You've been an agent of change for many, many years. You came up in an era of segregation during the Civil Rights Movement. And this is a quote you had about the Civil Rights Movement. Somebody asked you if you knew kind of what you were in the middle of back then. And you said, you did things back in those days and you didn't consider yourself changing anything. And I think it's kind of interesting way to bring us to a current conversation about sexual harassment in the restaurant industry and in the world at large, and sexual abuse. And I talked to a lot of people, like we were all swimming in this toxic water and none of us really understood how toxic it was till all of this came out. And now we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was putting up with that for how many years. So we really are, I think, in a moment of change, of social change. But when you and I were just talking backstage about the Me Too movement and sexual harassment, this is a very generational thing. And I was curious what you thought about it.
It is generational, but because there's so many young women out here today, and I try to talk to them all the time. The thing about young women are, one thing they got today, they're educated. In my day, very few of us were educated. So, that's another whole thing. But women today are educated, but they don't understand their power as women. Women are powerful human beings. They got the power in them. And you just had to go back to the old school. The old women, how they taught you. Rough. So if you were getting dressed to go out, they would tell you, remember, now this is ugly and rough, but that's what they tell you. Listen, you got a product that'll sell when cotton and cane can't. When cotton and corn can't, you got a product that'll sell. Don't sell yourself cheap out here. So we knew what that meant. That meant take care of yourself. Don't let men come over on you. Don't do this, don't do that.
Well, now, you had said to me that you felt like you had not experienced sexual harassment in your
I
coming up.
didn't. And when I was young, I was fairly good looking, but evidently I didn't. I didn't attract many men. I
Right.
don't know.
Well,
I don't know. They didn't come, and they didn't come. And when they did, we knew how to talk our way out of everything. You talked your way out of things.
Right.
People would come on to you, and you would know how to talk. For one thing, for me, is I would tell you straight. If you're taking me out, you're taking me out because I want to be seen, and I want to be seen with you. So don't take me in a dark corner, because I'm not going there.
all right.
I'm not going there.
And that's just a tip. If anybody's going to ask Leah Chase on a date, now tip to anyone who's out
I
there.
want to be seen, and I want to be seen with you. I didn't put on these clothes not to be seen. You go in the dark corner. I'm going out there.
Now, but it's interesting. I do think that depending on what generation you were raised in, you interpret what's happening now in a different way. And I certainly was of a generation in which we were, taking back the night and going to self-defense classes and because we were trying to prevent rape, right? And I talked to younger women, and they're like, why weren't the men going to don't rape classes? Like, how about we change it to them? Or, why a panel of women is up here talking about sexual harassment and preventing it and changing it, and why are men not up here saying, let's get together as male allies and figure out how we can stop it. So
Stop it.
it's an interesting thing. But then I also talked to older women who were like, if you're going to if a manager was sexually harassing you at work, then you go find another job. And I was of the generation, well, we'll figure out how to manage it. And I don't want to leave my job, but I'll come up with strategies. And younger women are like scorched earth. They're like, nope, that manager's got to go and it's got to stop. And thank God for younger women who are drawing a line in the sand, because it certainly opened my eyes. I'm going to go to the younger.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Well,
go ahead.
We knew how to take care of those things back in those days, particularly black women. We always had to take care of ourselves. We had to be the leaders. Our men couldn't do that because they would have get beat up and all that. So we always had to be out front. So we knew how to take care. If you came on to us, I guess we wouldn't tell anybody, but we knew how to defend ourselves, give you a good kick in the groin, tell you about your mama, and keep going.
All right. Jessica, when we were talking a little earlier, you were talking about West Side Story, and
Well, I was talking about West Side Story because on the plane on the way down, I thought, oh, look at West Side Story. I haven't seen it in decades. And I was struck by the changes that we as a nation, I guess, have gone through since West Side Story. West Side Story came out when I was in high school. And one of the things about West Side Story that I found fascinating was the big question was, the girl couldn't be in the gang. It's like, oh, that doesn't even fit now. So that we've changed enormously in so many ways. And I think, speaking from my vast pinnacle of almost age, that one of the things that's interesting, and certainly one of the things that changed things, was the pill. And we need to factor that into our conversation, because I grew up in the world, and I wrote it down because it's a sort of soundbite. I like sound bites.
and you're very good at
BBC,
it. Thank you.
before Booty Call.
Right.
So, if you grew up in that world, there were different ways that you had to behave.
So you're saying that the sexual revolution as such, is defined by, say, the pill or more sexual freedoms, was an antecedent to more sexual harassment in the workplace because there was more
I think it opened
sex
a door.
happening?
I think it opened a door because I think
Don't you think people, though, could have a sexual relationship without being harassed at work, or do you think it's
Oh
they,
yeah,
they
no,
are
no, no. I
married?
don't think it's, indivisible. But I think that one of the things that happened with that was that there was a vast change in how everybody began to think about everything.
So the lines got blurry.
And the lines got blurred and crossed, and all sorts of things, I think, happened at those periods when that was coming into effect. I mean, we women assumed a lot of things and changed a lot of things. And so there were, it's complex.
Right.
And the older you get, the more complex
That's just like
it
a young
is.
thing. So Barbara, we're not that I'm going down
Well,
in
I'm
age.
just not going to talk about the rhythm method right now.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's a good Catholic,
Clearly,
right?
it didn't come from
Right.
Boston.
Right. I mean, you've run a lot of kitchens. Have you? And you have talked about some serious sexual harassment that you've endured.
Geez, as a kid, God, it was. I can't talk about it. It's like it was a job.
Yeah, it was your job. It's how you survived. Yeah.
Not for me. It was like how my mother survived.
Yeah. Where are the tears coming from? Not to get all Oprah
Because I
on
love
this,
these
but
two women that have such great strength.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just like.
Okay. He's right.
So anyway,
sometimes,
I mean,
sometimes you back
I've
up and
tolerated it. I've tolerated it.
you think
You're
about
so right,
things
like,
and
if
bring
anybody
tears
pulled
to your
that shit
eyes,
on
how
me
you
right
mistreat
now, I'd just zip it, unzip it, and I'd slowly sever it, probably with a steak knife. And probably saute it in a nice cast iron skillet that hasn't been seasoned yet. And, I have to say, like, I wouldn't change anything. How I was raised or how I grew up, because I grew up with incredibly stronger women than my mother, who cared for themselves and wanted to be something. And when Leah said, like, oh my God, a girl from Southie, we were Irish, we're all fucking Irish. But we all had babies in the spring and the baby carriages, big, huge thing. And for some reason, I don't know. I just wanted to be something. And I knew if I could cook, I'd always have a job.
That's what you did.
So let's go down now to a little slightly younger generation. But Camilla, let's talk from your perspective. I think you're the youngest person on the panel at 30 something, right? And because they do things generational. But so when you look at when all this started to break and people were starting to talk about sexual harassment in the workplace, it did feel like a watershed moment to, I think, many of us. How did you experience that? And do you feel like sexual harassment was part of the workplace, just in general, when you were coming up? I mean.
So it's interesting because I've worked in a lot of different industries, and I think it gives you a more global perspective. Yes, but not personally, fortunately. I think it's interesting you were talking about the generational differences, and you were talking about civil rights, and I think for our generation, social media has a lot to do with, I think, part of why speaking up has a different meaning. You actually have a voice. You have followers, even if you're not a famous chef or restaurateur. And there is a sense, I think, a little bit more that speaking up actually can do something, and there is a way to do that more directly. You don't have to go through a boss anymore.
But we've
you
always had a voice. I feel like we're being heard for the first time.
Sorry, meaning the voice is
Okay.
heard
Good way to put
because
that.
you have
Thank you.
social media, and I think it's opened up a lot of avenues in order to get it heard. Agreed. To me, I think what you said in the intro is the most important, which is it's a human issue. This isn't really a woman issue. It is, what kind of society do we want to live in? What kind of society do we want to raise both, all genders in? And we have to take responsibility for that. And we have to be thinking about having zero tolerance when it crosses the line, doing your part in your own day-to-day life. I mean, for me, the most incredible part of this symposium and what I've taken out of it is what we need is more business owners that live and walk the talk of diversity and inclusion in policies, in culture, in hiring, in what you tolerate and what your response to certain behaviors is. That has to be every day, how you live your life, the choices that you make. And I think that that's where real change will come about, is really more amazing business owners like Ella, and who really stand on that and aren't going to be told anything different. And that's just what they're going to do because it's right. And I think that is a human thing and part of what kind of society we want today and what we want to pass down, to your point, not just a women's issue.
And Sheila, let's thank you for that. That's, yeah. Sheila, this is how you run your business. Talk to me about how you handle sexual harassment at your business, and how many people do you think are under your leadership umbrella, as they say in the business seminars?
3,000 employees.
3,000?
Yeah, because I have 7 hotels, and I have a no tolerance policy. Now, what makes me a little bit different, and as an African American woman, I have always been the CEO of my own businesses, from playing the violin and touring all over the world and performing, then starting a media cable company. I was in charge of that, and believe me, in the media company, I saw a lot of it. I did not tolerate it, but it was on both sides of the fence, okay? It was just...
What do you mean both sides of the fence, women and men?
Yes. I saw it on both sides of the fence. And now in my third act of life is in the resort business. I have made it very clear as the CEO and the leader of Salamander Hotels and Resorts, I will not put up with it. I have been on the losing end. I lost a husband over a woman who slept with my husband, and I just was not going to tolerate it anymore. And it's just a case where I am very sensitive to this issue. And as a leader and as a woman-owned business, I am very, very cognizant of what is going on out there in the world. And believe me, I think people have both sides of the fence have got to take responsibility. I know my mother has always told me, I said, Mom, I've just never had this problem. She says, Sheila, you got to know your own power, because she says, I look at you and you don't put up with any crap. You really don't. Men do not come on to me, because I won't let them. I just will not
But
tolerate
doesn't this
it.
put all the
unless I want
responsibility on women to...
I'm sorry.
I mean, shouldn't men be taking some responsibility for not coming on to you so you wouldn't have to have the defense to...
Oh, absolutely, but I guess I must give off some vibes or something, because I just don't put up with it.
Yeah.
I just will not put up with it.
Right.
I take responsibility of who I am and the power that I hold, the leadership, about my character and about my integrity, and that I hold very high.
Have you had a case of sexual harassment in your businesses that you've had to deal with or get rid of any employees? Or
Oh, yeah. And as soon as I find out, they're gone.
right, so it's zero tolerance.
0 tolerance. And I speak to all of my employees that line up. I talk to them about what the Salamander stands for. It's about perseverance, courage, and fortitude. And it's about the honesty. And it's all built into the integrity of what my company stands for. And I have what I call the 3 pillars that I built my company on. One is imagination, to create the vision and the strength of where I want to, the foundation in which my company is built on. The second is humility. I want to provide the leadership to also build a very strong team of people around me that share my vision and the integrity and the character and the qualities of the leadership that I instill in my company. And the third pillar is heart. I put people first. I want to make sure that I build a company where I am really taking care of people, but I also have a no tolerance policy for any kind of harassment or anything that I do not hold that is part of the pillars of my company. I will not tolerate it. I'm the leader, and I've got to be the example.
Now, Dominique, let's talk to you for a minute about this. And we talked about this, like #MeToo, but then what's next? And how are we supposed to consider this? Are we supposed to not, we talked about this on other panels, we have this discussion. Do we not go to restaurants where known sexual harassers are making money off of them? Do we act like Gabrielle Hamilton and go in and try to save restaurants? Do we, where do you think we should go next with all of this?
Well, first I want to say something. So there's something that struck me yesterday I want to say about New Orleans.
and we were talking about it today.
This morning, yeah.
Okay, this morning, and I was just like, wow, if America had a name and was a city, I think New Orleans will be America. So
Yeah.
this is a city of
Bravo.
Yeah, bravo.
mean,
It's respect.
Work ethic, diversity.
It's amazing. Everybody, I mean, you can be who you want to be here.
Honesty and rawness and hardworking and how to recover from Katrina and so forth and keep
It's
on moving
amazing.
forward is amazing. So thank you.
All right, give it up, New Orleans.
I mean, we both, I've never been here. It's my first trip, and we both felt the same. Like, there are trees in the Muir Woods, but the roots here are fucking bigger and deeper, and I like it.
And that's amazing.
Thank you.
All right. Well, so we talked about this morning. A movement needs to move.
It has to move.
We have just let's move. You know.
I mean, we can talk about it as much as
Yeah.
So what does that look like, though? What does moving mean?
Well, we shouldn't talk about everything that we
The
talk
question
about.
is asked to me. not
Oh, I'm
to you.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, you got there's a whole there are other people up here in a whole room here. So let's talk to everybody.
Just talk about it.
No,
Just
you
go,
can-
go,
you
go,
can
go.
talk.
No, go.
You want to talk?
No. Pension in French. Go for it.
I love her. We've been hanging out. I mean, she's a friend. So, first of all, it's about inclusivity. We need to all talk, we need to all move forward together. You know, it's not about pointing finger. It's not about going to this restaurant because it was owned by someone that did something bad to others. It's about, okay, so now what are we doing? You know, what is how to move forward? It's not, let's stop the talk and walk the walk now. Because I think I'm getting tired about all those panels about the Me Too movement, which is
This
that,
one.
I mean, are they moving? I mean, that was the question. Are they?
yeah.
Are they
We have to now. What are we doing to move forward? You know, and I think the number one thing is about inclusivity. It's about also education, and the change is going to start with us. It's not going to start with the politics out there.
Well, there's religion and there's politics, and if we continue to go that route, we're not going to go anywhere.
I mean, we have to be the change that we want to.
So how does that practically apply? So it's sort of on your line. If there's that line between, say, somebody's speaking out of turn on your line in your restaurant, is it just daily tangible action of saying that's not what we accept here, or is it something more?
It wouldn't even come out of their mouth. Actually, they wouldn't even make it that far, probably.
Right.
At all.
In your
Well,
kitchens.
I think it's about education. So, I mean, I have 3 restaurants and I have 0 tolerance. And it's about to give the information to people that want to work with us. And this is who we are. This is where we want to go. This is kind of the idea and the philosophy of who we are. And we want you to be a better person. If you don't want to, don't work with us. Or, I mean, there's 0 tolerance. But it's about education, you know. I mean, I was just thinking about this. It's like, do we teach kids at school this? No, we don't. Do we as parents teach our kids? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if everybody is doing it. There is anything in the books? I mean, we talk about history. I'm not sure there's any books at school that we can, read about it. So I think education is number one. It's about information, it's about education. Let's not feel sorry anymore. Let's not apologize anymore. I'm sick and tired about apologizing. A woman should never apologize to a man, period. The man should apologize, but not a woman. I mean, a woman should never apologize. We need to have more conversation, but we need to move forward, and we need to be able to exchange ideas, and to be who we want to be. We are human. Yeah, we're different. Values is very important.
Just value yourself. Whether you're male or female, I mean, I think value is really key, and in great morals. At least, I have to say one great thing about my mother was she did have great morals, and that you treat people how you want to be treated.
Yes, and we need to stop. I'm sorry. I'm an immigrant and I don't vote yet. I'm permanent
Are you
resident.
gonna lose
but
it? Are you gonna lose it like I did?
Anyway, it's so funny. My dad used to tell me, you have to learn about history, but also news every day so you can know what's going on in the world. Anyway, so I just get to my phone this morning and there's this guy that's apologizing about his behavior on TV. I think it's the president of the United States.
No, it's the judge. It's the judge.
This morning. It's not about parties. It's not about being Republican, about Democrat. It's about being a decent human being, period. And the guy is apologizing about his behavior, and then he's attacking other people. It's like, what kind of conversation is that, And it's just like, we need to stop doing this. We need to stop pointing finger at others. We have to take our own responsibility. So how we move forward? We just have to do it.
We talked about it, and I think that we should break up into smaller groups. I mean,
Okay, I'm going to count off, and we're all going to move into small support groups at this point.
no, I mean, we have
and work
wonderful
this out.
organizations, and I think that, like, we have women chefs and restaurateurs, and we have Le Grand Dames, and, it's time to look financially and how we can help the next generation.
Let's
So I
talk
think
about
there's
women helping other women. Go ahead, Camilla.
Well, I was going to say, to your point, and to extrapolate, how do you exactly do that? I mean, you talked about, do we not go to a restaurant that's owned by XYZ? Well, what about taking the opposite side, which is, what can we do from a forward-standing support level? Why isn't there, instead of just a heat map of a cool restaurant, there's nothing that's been showing what restaurants care about sustainability, what restaurants have equal employment opportunities, what restaurants care about diversity and inclusion, what restaurants actually invest in their community.
So you could have the sexual harassment heat map, and no sexual harassment happens at this restaurant, go support them.
Or what about the opposite, which is, why aren't we having really dedicated attention, support, voting with our dollars, and that includes the press, awards, attention, and economic support, and leadership support for leaders and entrepreneurs and restaurateurs, as well as chefs in this space, that stand on those values and stand on those morals.
It's
because what I see is a lot of attraction to cool. You asked about generational differences. I think the rise has been, and very tremendously and well overdue, towards chefs that have emerged, a lot of female chefs that are finally getting well overdue attention. I hope the next wave of that is business owners and women that are getting financially backed, and to your point,
Are we
who
getting
should
financially
be.
backed? And this is the problem, and this is where the anger is going, and this is where the anger does start. And it doesn't happen to be just in a female tone. It's in every best interest of a restaurateur, in an independent restaurant tour owner. And I'm not going to go into depth about this because I think it's just an incredibly really deep conversation that we need to have
The financial support.
on how to build cities and so forth.
But Sheila,
we can have-
let Sheila make a point.
I'm sorry.
Here because this is something I've been following, and I've always been about women's empowerment, to the point where I would say almost 65% of my companies I have female employees, and they're even on the C-suite level. But one of the things that I've realized, and even I as a woman, in getting into the hospitality business, how it was so hard for me as an entrepreneur to even get financing or get investing. And it's been important for me to make sure that I support other women and to educate. I do a lot of speaking to try and uplift the younger generation. I started an investment company called We Capital, where I've put close to 18 women together. We have raised over $25 million, where we are then putting that money back into their companies, whether it's restaurants, whether it's any kind of idea that's already on the ground and they need to get to that next level. And I think that's what we need to do. I think the rhetoric is there. It's out there. I think it's now important that we take it upon ourselves to take on the responsibility of educating this younger generation and helping them take responsibility for themselves if they continually want to go on the path and the journey of being successful. They need to be empowered. I am tired of just sitting back here and they're upset and belly aching, and I've put so many young women through school, through the Kennedy School of Leadership, that are now going to run for public office. that I have my first African-American woman who's president of the Harvard Law Review. This is where I am concentrating as a business owner, a leader, and trying to teach our young women of this younger generation, and I've got some men in there too, but to really help them move along in their journey of life. Even my basketball players on the court, they've got to think about what are they going to do after basketball. I am putting them in internships at Morgan Stanley. It's important that we sit up there and we strengthen and get that power out there and teach them how to, it's my job to empower the women out there, and I'm trying to touch as many of them as I possibly can through my hospitality company. I call it the double bottom line, because the more I can put out there, the more I'm going to get back.
All right, thank you. Now, the second, Leah, this is a concept, and we had talked about this a little bit last night. You and Ella Brennan were contemporaries to a degree, and competitors probably. But you talked about how you helped each other out as women back in those days. Can you tell us a little bit about that idea of women helping women back in the day?
She did. I mean, she was the person who would help you get through all kinds of things. I'll never forget, I had a food writer that did me in badly. And she came, she said, this will never happen here. This will never happen. So I will do this, that, and the other, and she did. To correct that, to make a difference. You know, women have to support each other, that's for sure. But you have to act like a woman. Yes. You have to, you know, you stepped in that man's territory, what he thought was his territory. You know, we walked in there. He couldn't understand that to begin with. I don't know why. For instance, I had a man who used to go fishing, my daughter's father-in-law. And I said, you know, I want to go fishing. I want to catch a big fish like that. And he really couldn't understand that. He said, well, I'm giving you the fish. I'm giving you the fish. I said, but I want to catch my own fish.
Right.
But he didn't. He couldn't understand why I would want to do that. You know, it's just, you want to do things. It's because you're a woman, that doesn't mean you can't do things. But one thing you cannot do, and I find that young women do that today, I don't like this bashing men. I'm not a man basher.
We love you, men.
We love you.
Deeply love you.
And it is our job as women, you know, people don't understand this. Men, smart men do stupid things. They do stupid things. And I say all the time, men were born stupid. You can't do a thing about it. So you have to help him. You have to help him up there.
Okay.
So that doesn't mean you're going to walk over him and mow him down. Your job is to kind of uplift him, make him stay in his place and uplift him. And I tell all young people, when they come to me, I said, young woman, look in the mirror every day when you get up and you say to yourself, I am the prize. Yeah. Look at yourself, you the prize. Let them come after you, you don't go after them.
All right, there you
So
go.
you have to just do what you have to do.
You know what, Leah? My mother always said men always speak with the wrong head.
All right. I'm uncomfortable now. I'm gonna have to send myself to human resources now. I'm uncomfortable.
I think the answer though still
Camille?
lies with, you know, again, as someone who's definitely a self-proclaimed capitalist, you also at some point have to follow the money. If our society and our world is 50% female and 50% male, we should be seeking economic opportunities that support equally. I mean, I think that's part of the answer of what you're saying is we need more female business leaders. We need more female owners who are financed who can then pass it down and create a more inclusive, fully inclusive and diverse businesses, because that is where it goes to. As a consumer, as a guest, voting with your dollars, thinking about every time you host an event, who's that money going to? You buy something at the store, who's that money going to? What is that saying, and what kind of values is that supporting? Every single one of us has the power to make that tide change and the movement go forward.
And we
But I
can
think
do
that
this
women-
through our own businesses. I mean,
Great.
I opened the Nopsey Hotel here, taking it from, the public service utility building. It's now 217-room hotel. But myself and Donna Brazil, we hosted over 300 women who were running for office. I use my hotels as the vessels to be able to bring groups of women in, to lecture to them, to talk to them, to mentor them, to push them forward. And we all have that power to be able to use our businesses to push women forward.
It's a great topic about women in financials. Like, for some reason, we're not, we feel like we're not financial. Oh, I know me, for instance, is like, God, I love making money when I make money. And I'm not kidding. But I was never, money wasn't my driving force. And now it is. Well, not for me. I mean, honestly, it's money in terms of how we can help each other. And we mentioned like the unions; they have pensions and so forth. And we want to sort of create something. And I mentioned banks before; it's just not going to work. But like just financial advice in general, I always feel like it's really hard to get women to invest as well. And so incredibly, like women can make shitloads of money, of course, but then where do they want to put it? And it's really hard for them to let go of what they've made. And you can't take it with you. So, for sure.
Let's,
But you can put it to good, just fucking money,
Yeah. I want to go to questions, but was there anybody want to weigh in on the money? Or Jessica, did you?
Forgot what I was going to say.
That's all
but
right.
essentially, I was going
You're
to
going
say
to ask Barbara
something.
for some money. See,
Well,
so-
there you go. I was going to ask Sheila for some money.
Sheila for the money. Hey, this is how it works. See, it's networking right here.
But I wanted to also begin to talk about one of the things that you mentioned, Dominique, is the whole notion of education and how this happens and how are women disempowered, if you will, by education. We usually don't, certainly in my generation, didn't get the financial education. We didn't get, the how to read a balance sheet, how to do all of that. And so then when you go to step out on that water, you're sort of looking for a way to stay up because you didn't come with that empowerment, if you will. And so I think that whole thing that you're doing, all praises, because just the way of beginning to turn that around.
Right.
You go to culinary school, you want to start a restaurant, you want to do something. How do you do that? I also wanted to say something else, which was, because for me it was always backwards in high heels while black. And that's another level of stuff there. So when you start talking about all of these things that we do, that we are learning to undo, that we are now building on, and once you become an elder and you look in the mirror and go, oh my God, how'd I get this old? It's like, how do I make it different for the next generation? And I think the whole notion of how do you empower young women. I mean, I see women in chef's jackets who may want a restaurant. How do you get that to happen? How do you make that happen? How do you move that forward another kind of way?
Well, I think it takes what I have been working with my young people with is I introduce them to people of wealth.
Right.
I teach them how to play in the same sandbox.
Yeah, sandbox
I
is
talk
important.
to them. I have another professor that sits and teaches them how to ask. What is it they need? How do they put together a business plan? And I think it's important that we have to have these hard talks with young people to teach them survival. Another thing I want to just say about the salamander, because people say, why did you name your company Salamander? You know if it cuts off its limbs, they regenerate. So that's the strength of the salamander, and I teach them how to become the salamander. But more importantly, it's incumbent upon me that I teach them how to network and meet the right people in life. Where do you want to go? Do you want to run for office? Okay, you need to meet with Mitch Landrieu or Cory Booker or someone like that, and you study up under them. I set those things up for them. And I think so many of us need to do that with this younger generation, because I feel myself, I'm moving to the curb. I have got to bring up a whole new generation of strong, powerful women.
Right. To that.
Do we have the microphones?
So right, and I had this discussion this morning, and I refuse to sign another 10-year lease. Like, poof, I'm 55. I don't want to do this for the next 10 years. Where I spend my energy is important, and I think it's a really wonderful time right now, not just for women but for everyone, as a civilian, to take notice of what's going on in our country, our world. It's a perfect time for a civilian to become more political, because we need it. We need us. Okay, the people who work, we are laborers. We're laymen. We are the ones that deal with 3 jobs, single parenting, grandmother, rent, and it's all over the lot. So I think my mission would be, and I always say lobbyist, and I'm not sure that's the right place for me right now, but eventually, I'd rather dedicate my next 10 to 15 years in terms of making changes. And I don't know if it's going to be in the White House, because I'm a ground girl, and I will do it, and I promise. I want to. That is what I want to
Dominique,
do.
one more thing, but then we're going to go to questions.
Yeah, I want to say something because we're talking about women, but I have the greatest advice that was given to me when I was younger, and it was the greatest man in the world, which was my father. And he told me that, Dominique, you're going to he called me Dom. Dom, you're going to go out in this world, and remember, you're going to go out there and kill it, crush it. It's just, no one is better than you, but you're not better than them. So go out there, be curious, and go kick some ass. That's what he told me very young. So I want people to understand that you just be humble, respectful, but no one is better than you, because you can go out there and just do the things that you want to do. So, and it's from a man, it's like in the 1970s.
Not everyone gets that advice. Believe me, my mother would say a prayer.
Well, now I'm giving that
You're
advice
getting
to
it here,
everyone.
so
I'm saying be yourself.
Yeah, be yourself.
I'm going to cut you. I'm sorry. I'm going to go to questions because we don't have a ton of time left. Yes, go ahead. And if you just have a question for us, go ahead in the front.
I just wanted to say, you talked about, we need to move forward. Where's the movement? There is a movement. It's the Fair Kitchens movement.
So you're talking about the Fair Kitchens movement?
Yes, because we talked about,
Just a minute. We have a mic.
the Me Too movement. Well, part of that is how we treat each other, and that's what the Fair Kitchen movement is all about.
Can you tell us what the Fair Kitchen movement is,
Fair
just
Kitchens
briefly?
movement is it's basically a movement where we treat each other with respect. Like, no more, are the F-bombs and you're stupid because you got this order wrong. It's like, hey, next time do it like this. It's treating each other with respect and changing the mentality in kitchens and in restaurants in general. So I went to a meeting at Maypop that Michael Galata was very gracious to host, and it was all about the Fair Kitchens movement, what it is, what it means to us. And I left there and I thought, this is great. Everybody's talking about all these things, but how do we continue? When's the next meeting? When are we going to do this again? And then I took a step back and thought, well, wait, it's within us. It's how we act in our businesses and in our restaurants every day, right? It's the policies that we put into place, and it's, more importantly, the enforcement of those policies. It is the zero tolerance. It's when you have a server coming to you at the beginning of service because the chef yelled at her and she's crying, how can you expect her to go and deliver exceptional hospitality when all of her enthusiasm was just crushed? So then you need to take control and have those difficult conversations to protect your people, make sure that they're treated fairly so that their hospitality can continue.
So you're making a call for the Fair Kitchens movement, and can people find out more about it if they go on the interwebs and
Yeah, you
find
can go to
things
Fair
out?
Kitchens, fairkitchens.org, I think it is.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
It's a great-
it's not about crushing the movement. It's about taking action.
Yes,
That's what I'm
exactly.
saying. Is
So
like
everybody
you
can
are
go organize a
taking
Fair
action.
Kitchens meeting and spread the word about Fair Kitchens, right?
Yes.
You gotta
That's what
remove the
you're saying.
hashtag in front of
Again,
it.
I want to make sure we have, do you have a question, or is that just you wanted to ring the
No, I
note for
just
Fair
wanted to,
Kitchens?
well, Dominique was talking about, we need to move forward. Where's the
Right.
movement? And I
Fair
think that's
Kitchens.
a really big
Okay.
step in the movement and
Right.
how we change the way we think about how we work in restaurants.
Do we have another question? I just want to try to rapid fire through people so we can get
I've got a
few more
question up
voices.
here. Hi,
Yes, hi, go ahead. Yes, up here, and then there's someone back here in the corner. Yes, go ahead.
my name's Jason Pickus-Favor. I'm the Assistant General Manager at the Auction House Market. And first of all, thank you all for being here. You're amazing. I want to know, from your perspective, what can we do as your male counterparts to become a better ally to you in this workplace?
How can the
Well,
brothers become
yeah,
allies?
First of all, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm not going to tell you. I hope you know what to do. You need to be a part of the conversation, and you need to be a part of the action. And you need to go out there and stand on your own and tell people what you're doing, and not ask us what to do, because you should know what to do right. And then you
Isn't
can be
some
part
of
of
it
the
just simply
conversation.
saying on the line, like if like speaking up when sexually harassing behavior happens?
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I haven't heard
some of it's that
a
simple,
man.
right? Saying, hey, that's not cool. I mean, isn't that?
I mean, I haven't heard many men to go out there and stand up like it's always a conversation between women.
Well-
I want a guy to say,
I'm over the woman conversation.
yes,
because
I want conversation with men. You know, I want to talk
What's
to
going
them.
to
I
happen
want-
if our movement really fucking moves and like, oh my God, all of a sudden the women's running the world?
I would say if you want
It would
something
be-
tangible,
I would
go
look at it
mentor
as like,
someone who
I
doesn't
need-
look like you, who doesn't come from a place where you don't come from.
Yeah,
Pick a different
exactly.
age, sex, religion, what have you. Everything. Pick someone who isn't like you and really think about mentoring them. To me, that's a way to move forward when you really want to talk about diversity
And
inclusion,
that
rather than just someone who's your buddy that you grew up with that's every bit like you.
And I want to say that conversation can't come from a place of, oh, Jesus, I need to do this because otherwise people. It needs to come from really
The heart
the heart,
soul.
like the heart and the soul from you as a man. You have a mother. You probably have a wife and kids. You have to be the man that you need to be.
Forget the man and the woman. Just be a
It's
human
just
being.
be a human, you
And
know,
dignity
for Christ's sake.
and
Yeah,
morals
dignity.
and
all
where
right,
you want.
let's.
It's about where do you want to see the world go and let go of shit.
All
Like,
right, we have
let go
another.
of it.
We have a thank you. We have another question in the front here.
Hello, I'm Tonette Reeves, and I attend Delgado Community College for pastry arts.
Can you speak up just
Can you
one?
speak up and stand up, maybe?
Yeah, stand up.
Yes.
first. Thank you.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. Rise and shine.
Hello, my name is Tonette Reeves, and I attend Delgado Community College for pastry arts. I have a question for all of you ladies. I only have a handful of women in my life that give me encouragement, so can I get a few words of encouragement today?
Oh my God.
All right,
I'll
go
give you a
ahead.
hug right now. 'cause
Okay,
that's
start.
fucking awesome. And you stood up. That's it. And you stood
You need to
Barbara,
come
you
up.
have to
need
give her a
come
job
up. You
now
need to
too
come
later
up.
when
Come
she
on.
graduates.
Come
So,
up.
here.
Come up here.
Sheila,
Where's your women right here? They're amazing.
Do not cry.
I need a tissue. I don't even know
A
why.
strong one, okay? No crying. Let's laugh.
No.
Okay. Tell me a joke.
In French.
this is like starting to be like an S seminar. It's good. This is good.
Hey, you can be anything you want. You know that, right? You just need to want it.
All right, sit down. Welcome.
Yeah.
That's good. And I just want to tell you, as you move forward in your journey in life, you be very careful who you bring around in your environment, both men and women.
That's
I
true.
call them energetic vampires because as soon as you start becoming successful, someone's going to jump on those coattails and try and take it away from you.
That's true. Oh my
Okay.
God, that is another whole topic.
So you be very, very careful. And
Coattails.
As we as
Coattail.
women
we have to be really vigilant on who we bring around in our environment, because they will take away your strength and your power. So you continue to sit here and you stare at that audience out there.
And you have
Sheila, there's a seat at the end if you'd like. Yeah.
You have to
That is a whole
associate
nother
with
topic.
people when everybody can be your friend. You can be kind to everybody, but when you have your personal friends, they have to be people who can uplift you.
Who lift you up, and if they're
Who
not
can
lifting you
uplift
up,
you. And it's easy to tell people who are trying to uplift you. And always be careful of that. You gotta be careful when you're out here. But you can do anything you want to do.
That's right.
But you just have to put it up here. Men can come by you, men can do, I worked with my husband for 71 years. He stayed in his corner and I stayed in my corner. And he knew my kitchen was my territory. And that's what it was. He respected me for that. Sometimes he disagreed with me. But you have ways to making that up. But always think about that. People who can uplift you.
All right. Yep. I think they just gave me a few more minutes. We have 10 more minutes? Okay, we got 10 more minutes. Who's got another question? And you're not leaving, young lady. So you should do not leave the stage without a job commitment from one of these people. That's my advice. Okay, who's next?
the world is so fast.
Oh, now we have 2 minutes. Is it 10 or 2?
10.
10. Okay, I'm not listening to you two.
Take it.
Okay, I'll
Go
talk
ahead.
A lot
fast.
of minutes.
So I'm actually a member of the Dallas chapter of Les Dames d'Escoffier, and we raise money for women in the culinary arts. And if y'all are not already DOMs, I would hope that you would get involved with your local organization, because we are women in the culinary arts lifting up other women who want to succeed in the culinary arts.
Okay, so you're putting in a plug for La Dames.
I mean, how
Yes.
come we don't
Help her out. Do you have a question, or you just want to put
No, I
out
just wanna
put
give a
out
shout
for
out.
the La
Do
Dames?
you have a
Okay.
restaurant finance class
do you
as part
have
of that program?
Okay, we have a question up here. Go ahead.
21-year-old woman about to enter the professional world. I am so inspired by all of you. And I just wanted to ask what you would tell your 21-year-old self today.
Just be yourself. I mean, just be confident and just go out there and just kick some ass. And don't be always curious also. Be curious and be humble, and get as much as information that you can get just to make your own decision. But don't be scared. Fear is prison. If you're scared about the world, you're 21, God, you don't be scared.
Embrace your fear.
Yeah, embrace your fear and just go out there.
Jessica has one on
I
this.
would also say, step out.
What do you mean?
I'm going to explain it in a minute.
Good.
When I was younger, I knew James Baldwin. And James Baldwin used to say, step out on the water. You never know. You may discover you can actually walk on it.
Yeah.
Think about
You gotta think about it.
it. So step out on the water.
Don't be afraid of failure.
Yeah.
Failure is the only way you'll know how to move forward. And also really get to understand who you are, not what someone else is telling you who you are. Find out who you are, and then that way you will find your passion.
And I will add, there is no failure in life. There is just opportunities.
Camilla, what would you tell your 21-year-old self?
I would say finding yourself and being really true to your own instinct and gut, which might change over time, especially starting out so young. But I was a really big believer in creating my own opportunities and not taking anything as given. No one is a mind reader. No one's going to create a path for you. You have to be willing to push. And I think always trying multiple opportunities at once and knowing and accepting that doors are going to shut in your face all the time, and you just have to keep pushing through, and it only takes one. At every juncture in your career, only takes one. I wanted to work in private equity as my first job out of grad school in hospitality on the other side of the coin, which taught me a lot. And I interviewed with 25 firms, all of whom rejected me. Only one accepted me, and it really changed the course of my whole career. So don't be afraid that a million people are not going to hear what you hear inside, and that's okay. Let them reject you, let them tell you it doesn't work, let them tell you you're not going to be the one to do it. As long as you keep a strong sense of self and you just keep pushing ahead, be fanatically perseverant, it will work. Something will open.
Thank you. And
Take a year and
Mrs.
live in the
Chase,
present.
what
Just
would you
live,
say
like,
to your
day to day.
21-year-old self if you were giving yourself advice?
Oh, that would be hard. You know, I came up different than these ladies here. I came up hard. My mother had 12 girls before she had a boy. So my daddy did never tell us there was anything that we couldn't do. We could do anything we wanted to do. And he always defended us. And I would tell them, just have self-confidence. You set a goal for yourself, and then you work hard at it. You work hard at reaching that goal. I have models that a lot of people went, I admired this lady, but I had a model before her, Eunice Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
That Eunice would talk to me, and she would tell me, look, Leah, Johnny did this, Johnny did that, but girl, no, we can do this, you know. But they talked to me, and I listened to them. But you have to have confidence in self. You have to know that and there's, in my house coming up, we couldn't use the word can't.
Right.
There was no such thing. My mother said it wasn't in the dictionary, and if mother said it wasn't there, we didn't look to see if it was there or not. One there. No such thing as can't. You can do it. And on the corner of my restaurant, I put up the last words my mother gave us to live by as girls. First, you have to look like a girl. You have to act like a lady. You have to think like a man and work like a dog.
All right. I think on that, can I say one thing? You want to take us out? You'll have our final.
I just want to say one thing in closing. I don't live here in New Orleans, but I've gotten to know the city. About 6-7 years ago, I shot the movie The Butler with Lee Daniels here and lived here for 47 days. Now that I've opened the Nopsey Hotel, my company manages, we don't own it, but we have built it, FF&E, we've done everything from the ground up. This young lady that's sitting up here on this stage is just one of thousands of young African American women who need your help. And there's African American men in this city. City is so special. But one thing I still have not seen as I go in and out of this city is we need to start connecting with these young people, give them jobs. The crime and violence that you see out in the streets is because they have lost hope. I speak with Mitch Landrieu all the time about this. There has got to be, there's a symptom out there where we've got to start reaching out. To see this young lady in tears coming up here and saying she needs someone to talk to, she really meant it. I need you all to reach out to this young lady. If you walk into the Nopsey Hotel, we have the most diverse staff you have ever seen in your life. And also into all of my hotels, I am very welcoming to a diverse clientele. I really believe that this is the answer in our country, that we have got to start liking and loving and meeting and talking and communicating with one another.
And human, we're human.
Everyone is.
We are human.
But I am asking you,
Yeah, I agree.
from the bottom of my heart, please help the young people in this city, because that's what's going to really push this city forward. It's going to make everyone successful.
Yep. And let's thank our panel. I think we're ready, right? Thank you very much. It's been like a powerhouse, and it's a rare thing in life to get these kind of women up on the stage together. So let's say thank you to them.